There is a kind of pain that doesn't announce itself loudly. It arrives quietly through a silence where a yes should have been, through a door that closed before you reached it, through the face of someone you trusted, showing you, without saying it, that you were not what they were looking for. Rejection, not the dramatic kind, the ordinary kind. The kind that happens in living rooms and families and gatherings where someone looks and decides, not this one. You know what that feels like? This is the story of three men who were rejected by the people who should have chosen them, who were sent away, sometimes literally, by the ones closest to them. Their names were David, Joseph, Jephthah, and where the rejection sent them changed everything. David. Samuel arrived at Jesse's house with a task. One of Jesse's sons would be chosen. God would make it clear which one. Jesse brought his sons forward, one by one. 7 of them passed. None of them was the one. Samuel asked, "Are these all the sons you have?" And Jesse said, "There is still the youngest, but he is out tending the sheep. Not, let me call him. Not, he might be worth considering." There is still the youngest, said with the particular flatness of someone who has not thought to include a person in a serious conversation. David was not in the room. He was not a candidate. His own father, when a prophet came to anoint a king from his family, had not thought to call him. That specific exclusion, not being dramatic, not being a fight, just simply not occurring to someone that you should be in the room, is one of the quietest and most precise forms of rejection there is. He was brought in, he was anointed, he went back to the sheep. And then the years that followed, years of being hunted by Saul, living in caves, leading a band of men described as in distress, in debt, in bitterness, David became something he could not have become anywhere else. He learned to lead men who had nothing to prove and nothing to lose. He learned the wilderness. He learned what loyalty costs when there is no reward attached to it. The overlooking by his father did not disqualify him. It sent him to the place where the king he was going to become was built, Joseph. His brothers had been accumulating this for years: the coat, the dreams, the favoritism that everyone could see and no one addressed. By the time they saw him coming across the field, the decision was already forming. They stripped him of the coat. They threw him in a pit. They sat down to eat. Then a caravan appeared, Ishmaelite traders heading to Egypt. And one brother said, "What do we gain if we kill him? Let's sell him. 20 pieces of silver." He arrived in Egypt as a slave, in a country not his, speaking a language not his, owned by a man who owed him nothing. His brothers had not rejected him ambiguously. They had acted on it, formalized it, and profited from it. And yet, the only road from the pit in Canaan to the hall of Pharaoh ran directly through Egypt. The rejection was not a detour from his story, it was the road. 13 years in Egypt, first in Potiphar's house, learning how power operates inside a complex system, then in prison, building the relationships that would, at exactly the right moment, put his name in front of the right person. 20 pieces of silver bought the position from which Joseph would feed a continent. Jephthah. He is less famous than the others, but his story is the most direct. Jephthah was the son of Gilead and a woman who was not Gilead's wife. His half brothers, born to Gilead's recognized wife, drove him out. The text records their words plainly: "You will not have any inheritance in our father's house because you are the son of another woman." They used the law, they gave a reason. The reason was his birth, something he had no hand in and no way to change. He went to a place called Tob, and there the text says, worthless men gathered around him, and they went out with him. The rejected man gathered other rejected men. In Tob, away from the inheritance and the legitimacy and the family name that had never fully been his, Jephthah became a leader, not of a household, of men who had nothing to protect, men who were tested by necessity, not by ceremony. He developed skills in exile that the comfortable do not develop because the comfortable have too much to lose to learn them. When the Ammonites threatened Israel, the elders of Gilead traveled to Tob. They came back to the man they had expelled. "Come," they said, "be our commander." Jephthah said, "Didn't you hate me and drive me from my father's house? Why do you come to me now when you're in trouble?" He named it, plainly, to their faces. He did not pretend the rejection had not happened, did not smooth it over for the sake of moving forward quickly. And then he went. The man they sent away became the man they needed. The skills built in exile were the exact skills the crisis required. The rejection sent him to the place where the necessary thing was being made. 3 men, 3 rejections. David, not called into the room by his own father. Joseph, sold by his own brothers. Jephthah, legally expelled from his family for his birth. All 3 were rejected by people with information, not strangers making a careless guess. People who knew them, people who had standing to make the judgment. And they still said no, or not here, or not you. That kind of rejection carries specific weight. It is not the same as being passed over by someone who does not know you. It brings the question, if people who knew me still said no, what does that mean about me? The answer in each of these cases is this: it meant nothing about their worth. It meant something about their direction. There is a version of this truth that gets delivered as encouragement. Rejection is God's protection. Every closed door is an open window, and it lands hollow because it bypasses the pain rather than passing through it. This is not that. Jephthah named the rejection to the people who had done it. He did not perform forgiveness or skip over the wound. He said what happened, plainly, before he agreed to move forward. Joseph wept when he finally saw his brothers again. Years of administration, years of power, and the sight of them undid him. The pain did not evaporate with the resolution. David carried the memory of years in the wilderness long after the throne. Some of the Psalms he wrote are not songs of victory, they are records of hiding. The pain is real. The pattern is also real. So here you are, carrying a rejection that has a name, a specific door. A specific person who said no, or not you, or not here. You do not have to pretend it didn't matter. You do not have to be grateful for it yet. But hold this: David's father didn't call him in, and the wilderness built the king. Joseph's brothers sold him, and Egypt built the administrator who would save them. Jephthah was expelled with a legal argument, and Tob built the commander his rejectors would travel to find. The door that closed on you is not always closing because you weren't enough. Sometimes it is closing because what you are being built for requires a different room, one that you would not have entered if the first door had stayed open. The ones who sent you away may not understand what they did, but they may be the first ones who come looking for you when it matters.